It started because, as you know, there was a failed project that happened. Unfortunately, another company was brought in. They weren't able to deliver, it just wasn't their expertise. They had all the best intentions in the world, they just weren't equipped to handle the project properly. So that's what our conversation came in, is like, how can we put this thing back together? And then not only can we not put it back together, but what would happen if we dreamed?
Are you ready? I am super excited to bring to you this backyard our guys have been working hard on all summer long. You've been catching bits and pieces of it on the channel. Today, you get to see exactly what went in to transforming this beautiful space on Lake Mohawk.
And it's awesome because it's like, you know, what's hidden behind the wall, right?
I agree. I want to know what's back there.
Working a lot. The big box, 18 by 18 is perfect for this corner. The rain is crazy and a lot of water stopping this corner. Right. And now the water go out, and this every time we can look clear in heavy rains.
Right.
It's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you guys worked for days here. I mean, normally a square footage like this is something you can do in an afternoon. But you guys worked on this area for probably 2.5 days to get the pitch perfect so that the water that's coming off the driveway is not going anywhere but into the drain, and that all the water that collects in this area is going to the drain and nowhere else. Because the last thing we want is all this work to be done and start having pockets where water's pooling and, you know, mud and plants dying and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of time and intention went into making sure that the elevation of the drain and the pitches around it are all perfect. Even the walkway behind it, I know you guys put a lot of time into that, making sure that you know, is pitched correctly so it goes towards the drain. So where we're standing is a really key part of this project. It was something that we knew this was going to be a focal point. Because you're standing here, you enter to the gate, the backyard, you're a guest, you're coming in, people are entertaining, they're hanging out, and you see this beautiful lake, Lake Mohawk. And, you know, certainly you can see the pools right in front of you, but you don't have direct access to it. You know, you can go around to access the living area, the house, the decks, the different patios. But there's this thing off to the side, and I can see a little bit of it, but I'm not quite sure what it is, and it intrigues me as to what's over there. But until I get closer, I'm not actually able to see what's over there. And then as you get towards the lake, different areas start to reveal themselves. That was one of the key design elements that took place here, that we knew we weren't quite sure how we were going to get through it other than a really big rock and some plants. But the placement of it, where I'm standing, is perfect. I can't see exactly what's over there other than a couple rocks. But as I walk over, I start to get a little bit of an impression of what it might be. And as all these plants around me fill in, you're not even going to be able to see through here other than maybe a little bit of this dry well. And then as I come around, even though this is such a really small space, I'm able to see that now there's a living area. This living area is contained. People that are coming into the backyard, they're not going to accidentally walk into this area. You have to come into this area with intention. And once you're in, you're kind of in this little pocket. You're away from the deck, you're away from the living areas. You can be over here and kind of have a separate conversation than somebody that's maybe over on the pool deck or the patio. The other thing we wanted to do is we wanted to make it a little bit private, so we brought in this is a river stone. This is a really hard rock to find, a rock that's this big, that's this smooth. And, you know, this was a key part of the fire pit. We wanted it to look like it's not contrived. We wanted it to look like it was something that was part of the ground that was built around. And this all came from inspirations that I had, that the homeowner's family had from different adventures of our lives, you know, traveling out west and hiking in the mountains and things like that. You know, the idea is that this rock has always been here. you know, since it was placed by the glaciers. And then somewhere along its journey, these other rocks were added in, you know, by man to create this spot where, you know, an undefined number of stories have been told, in an area that you just ask yourself, you wonder what's happened here in the past. And to me, it's super cool, especially because I think if you're out in the lake, you're not really going to know what's going on here, but you're going to see the glow of the fire bouncing off the rocks, and it's going to create this ambiance of like almost wondering, even from the lakeside, you know, what's going on over there. You know, it's going to give you that sense of like, oh, something fun's happening over there. I wish I was over there, right? So to me, this is probably my second favorite part of the yard.
Right.
But like this view here is probably central, right? You know, you get to be the boss of the fire. You also don't get your face melted off, so you're a little bit further back. You get to control the wood, but you also get the best viewpoint where you can see pretty much the whole property from here. You know, I can get a glimpse of the pool, I can see the lake, I can monitor the fire. You know, I can protect the property line, make sure the dogs aren't, you know, sneaking around the fence or something like that. So it's definitely a cool spot that came after. You know, this wasn't on the plan, but these are the types of things that when you're given creative freedom just kind of come to be. So there was rocks that were around here, but they wanted it to kind of have a little more balance. It was kind of pieced together, almost like rocks were just kind of picked out of the ground over the years of gardening, which is usually what happens. But we wanted the height of these rocks to all be consistent because they do have a growing family, and the one thing that's important is as people are enjoying the space, you could probably fit 50 people on these walls if you wanted to, so there's a seat for everybody, you know, as football, soccer games, cornhole, you know, whatever takes place here on the property. So you guys did a great job, you know, knocking these out, making sure they're good and stable. You guys probably saw a little bit of the retaining wall that was in the beginning. That was built by the last group. Fortunately, that wall was unstable and unsafe, so we had to take it down, which kind of worked out in our favor anyways, because we had to make some changes to the drainage, and it allowed us to create that really cool river swale, which actually gets a surprising amount of water when it rains. But it's been cool to work on that, and I know you guys seem to like working on those. It's a little bit of an artistic element. You know, plants are basic, nothing crazy, stuff that doesn't require a lot of maintenance, so that when the homeowners come through, they're not spending all their weekend gardening. They're just kind of enjoying what's here without having to put a lot of time back into the property. But let's go check out the fishing area, because I think that's probably your guys' favorite spot, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can eat and lunch every day there.
It's been an excellent place for lunch, yes.
Yeah, it's been tried and tested. One of the items that was part of the original vision was the homeowner wanted to have a spot to go fishing. And he knew that this tree was somehow involved in that, but we weren't really quite sure how that was going to go down. So it made sense to kind of cut this area off from the rest of the property. There's no grass or anything that needs maintenance. This area is just going to kind of fill in and be its own spot. We are in New Jersey. This area is actually more reminiscent, I think, of what you'd find around Swartswood Lake, Little Swartswood Lake locally, than you would out like on the West Coast. Just the type of rock we have is more indigenous to the New Jersey area. But it has this really cool seating rock, which is a couple different heights, so you can easily fit. I mean, we've had 7-8 people on this thing. Every day at lunch, you guys have been out here eating, and it's, you know, you got that table rock, which seems to be where I wind up having to sit because I'm always coming in late to the game. But yeah, I think this area here is going to provide, you know, a nice platform to make some experiences between, you know, the grandchildren and the grandparents, and just kind of hang out in the shade. It's easily 10 degrees cooler here during the day than it is anywhere else.
It's an unbelievable difference in temperature. I mean, this tree, when we first got here, I was like, wow, this tree's ugly, but I love this tree. It creates shade like through the early afternoon, from the morning through the early afternoon. This is completely shaded, like Robert said. It's easily 10 to 15 degrees cooler right here than it is out in the sun.
Back Yard was a little lumpy, very lumpy. There was a low spot out in the middle there. Figure if we're bringing machines in, we're doing all this work, why not regrade it, make it flat so you can run across it, not trip, fall in a hole. Built this dry creek over here, which is very functional. It takes all the drainage from the property and not only takes it but responsibly manages it. What most people don't realize is you can't take your gutter water, your storm drain water, and just dump it right into the lake. Seems something that would be naturally intuitive, right? Take your pipe, put it in the water, return the water back to the water. Well, unfortunately what you do in those instances is you put all those nutrients in the water and then you start getting harmful algae blooms and things like that. So the daylight, where the pipes end in this job, is actually way further back from the water than what is required. And the reason is that there's several feet of gravel underneath this area. And what it does is it takes that water and it filters it out. The idea is that the water now has a ton of time to drop its sediment, drop its nutrients out. So the water that is returning and recharging back into the aquifer, Lake Mohawk here, is significantly cleaner than if we were to take the pipe and just daylight it towards the drain, which was the way the original system was intended to be. And we knew if we're going to put the time in to rebuild this thing and put the amount of work that we did into the backyard, that we wanted it to look natural. We didn't want anything in this property to look forced. And I think you guys knocked it out of the park. We've done a few of these dry wells, these dry creeks here, that are meant to look natural. But I think this one definitely has elevated the game of these natural dry beds that we've been building. I'll tell you, that day we had a lot of rain. There was probably 12 inches of water in here. So it's a functional dry well. It doesn't just look pretty.
Right, it was pretty wicked.
Yeah. We built the bridge. We knew someday, even though hopefully not for a while, we were going to need to get something back here, whether it be machinery or, maybe remove a tree or something like that. So we wanted to build this access point so that in the future, anybody that does need to come in does not need to destroy anything we've done. They don't need to run wheelbarrows over our gravel or flagstone, anything like that. They have a maintenance access point for the backyard, as well as one on the other side, which was prior existing. Some other items, the pool equipment's all been reinstalled. Everything's up and running. And overall, I think we've done everything we came to do. We've buttoned the backyard up. It's complete. We've not only fulfilled our contract, but then some. We've gone above and beyond to make sure we've checked all the corners, the little nooks and crannies, and it's ready for a party.
That time of year, right? So coming early summer, coming into midsummer, everything's still wet. The ground's real wet. So all our equipment was getting stuck, sinking, tearing the place up. And then almost overnight, right? In about the period of like a week, it went from that to like the Great Dust Bowl, where there was no moisture out here at all whatsoever. Everything turned into like 4, 5, 6 inches of powder. So that created a whole other problem. The dust, and our equipment was, inhaling all that stuff every day, and then trying to work, and it was definitely difficult. But we worked right through.
Yeah, I think the weather had a huge part to play in the design, just everything in this. The whole thing with like it being wet, as Steve was saying, but then also the heat. It was like 100 degrees out here. We had the tents up. We worked through it, but it was definitely a challenge, just working through the summer heat. But I'd like to say, like, just being on the lake was a pleasure for me. I know other summers I've been in a field, so I'll take a lake any day, and hopefully get some fishing in after this.
Yeah, we're excited to see how it gets used.
Any maintenance tips that you would recommend to keep the landscape looking as good as new?
I mean, a lot of it comes down to design. Over the years, we've seen a lot of projects that are extremely high maintenance, and sometimes that works. Sometimes you have people that they're okay with the maintenance. They want that boutique garden. They want a lot of variety and things like that, but that's not for everybody. In this particular case, they didn't want a lot of maintenance. They wanted to basically just come and go in the summer as they want it, as they pleased, without having to spend the weekend gardening or several hours gardening. Maybe cut the grass and that's about it. And a lot of that happens in design and the planning. It's very easy to overplan or overplant. Basically what we've put in here is only going to require a little bit of maintenance in the fall, other than, you know, normal stuff for the season, the leaves from the trees and things like that. You know, so they could probably get away with, you know, a little bit of maintenance in the fall, a little bit of maintenance in the spring to get everything ready to go. And during the summer, it's just normal household maintenance, keeping the gutters clean, mowing the grass, you know, which they can find, you know, any number of local services to do. But a lot of it comes down to the planning and the design, you know.
Say it again.
We are ready for the next project.
Celebratory beers.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's been a real treat. If you're curious what something like this costs, go ahead and click right here to head over to our buyer's guide. It'll take you to our website and show you all the different options available when working with Sierra Landscape. Of course, if you want to see the beginning of this project, go ahead and click right here to get started, and don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you don't miss out on any more valuable Sierra content. Thanks for watching.